Okay, this is going to be lesson 5.5. And what we're going to be working on is what's called standard form. So this is going to be the third and final form of a linear equation. Okay, so we have done slope-intercept, y equals mx plus b, and we have done point slope, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. So now we're going to be working on standard form. Okay, standard form is simply ax plus by equals c. Now, what's important here is that your x and your y need to be on the same side now, okay? Also, a, b, and c, they're just numbers. So a, b, c, they're just numbers, okay? But what's important to note here is that we're going to put x and y on the same side. All right, so there are 3 rules when dealing with standard form. First off, your a value must be positive, okay? So when I put a number here, like let's say it's 2x or 3x, it has to be a positive number. So I would not be allowed to keep my answer as like negative 2x or negative 3x, okay? So a, or that front number in front of the x, must be positive. There can be no fractions or decimals anywhere in my problem. I don't care if we're talking A, B, or C. There shouldn't be a fraction or decimal anywhere, so I can only have whole numbers here. And the third rule is that the GCF must be 1. So what I'm talking about here, if we look here, 2, that's your A value, 4 is your B value, and 8 is your C value. Now, when I look at this right here, if you're able to divide all of the parts by something, then you're supposed to do that. So like in this case, I could divide everything by 2 and get x plus 2y equals 4. Now, when I do that, this guy right here and this equation right here are actually saying the same thing. It would be the same line if we graphed it, okay? Now, just kind of a side note here, though. Oh, wrong one there. 1 and 2 are going to be our main focus. We do not normally see this third one very often. Maybe algebra 2, we just don't see this come up too often. So like I said, when I say GCF must be 1, it just means can I divide all my parts? Our main focus is going to be these 2. All right, so let's go down and look at our first example here. So now when I'm looking here at my first example, it says write the point slope, slope-intercept, and standard form of an equation of a line that goes through the given point with the given slope, okay? So I have a point and a slope. So guess what? We are going to be still starting in point slope form, okay? So we're going to start off our point slope, y minus our y value, which is 4. Our slope is negative 2. And then x minus my x value, which is negative 4, okay? And in fact, I'm going to take a second real quick here, and I'm going to just write these up top so that you remember what's what, okay? So there's your point slope, slope-intercept, and now we're going to take it into that third and final form of standard form, okay? So that's just kind of a reference point for you so you know what your different equations are. Okay, so we start point slope. Now we have talked in class that if we have a double negative, we go ahead and make it positive. All right, so that's point slope. So now if I want to take it into the next one, which is slope intercept, okay, all that means is I need to solve for y. Okay, so down here, let's think about how we can isolate that y, or how would we get that y by itself. Okay, well, to start, we want to go ahead and distribute that negative 2 through. So I get y minus 4 equals negative 2x minus 8. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue to isolate that y by adding 4 to both sides. So I get y equals negative 2x minus 4. And that is your slope intercept. Okay, so there's 2 of the 3 answers we need. Again, we've got point slope, and now we've got slope intercept form. So again, slope-intercept, just solve the equation for y. It'll be the same process. Distribute, move this value over. All right, and now we've got to do the last form here, which is standard. Okay, so now in standard form, we want to get the x and the y on the same side. Okay, well, if I come down here and look at this, to get the x and the y on the same side, I'm going to move this 2x over. Okay, so to get it to move over, I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So that cancels. So now I have 2x plus y equals negative 4. Okay, so if I look at this, I've got ax, by, so my b value would just be a 1 here, equals c, which is negative 4. My a value is positive, and there are no fractions or decimals in it. So that's my final answer here. So this guy right here, I'm just going to put S for standard. Okay, and those are my 3 answers. Okay, let's go ahead and try that again. Okay, so again, we're going to start with point slope. Okay, point slope. So I'm going to do y minus my y value, which is negative 4, negative 8/5, because that's my slope, and then x minus my x value of 5. All right, now I do have a double negative, so I'm going to go ahead and make that a positive. And there is my point slope form. Okay, so now to solve for y, right, solve for y, I'm going to distribute. So I get y plus 4 equals negative 8/5 x. A negative times a negative will be a positive. The 5s are going to cancel, and I'm just going to have the 8 left. If you struggle with this, again, just utilize your calculator if you need to. Take negative 8/5 times negative 5. Okay? Now, again, I'm solving for y, so I need to go ahead and subtract that 4 off. So y equals negative 8/5 x plus 4. Okay, and that's going to be slope intercept. Okay. All right, so I've got 1 answer, 2 answer. So now my last one is I'm going to move into slope intercept form. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move that 8/5 over. So I'm going to add 8/5 x to both sides. Okay, so I get, I'm going to write kind of small here, I get 8/5 x plus y equals 4. Now I'm really close to standard form, but I do have a problem here, and that is I have a fraction. While this number is positive, I cannot have a fraction. So since I have a fraction there, I'm going to have to clear my fraction, and the way you do that is just to multiply by 5. Okay, so when I multiply by 5, that goes away, but make sure we multiply all parts by 5. So I'm going to get 8x plus 5y equals 20. And that's going to be my standard form. Okay. All right, going down to the next problem. It says write the point slope, intercept in standard form, but now we're given 2 coordinate points. So instead of given the slope, we've just got 2 coordinate points. Okay, so on this, anytime we have 2 coordinate points, we're going to find slope first. All right, so I'm going to take 5 minus 4 and 0 minus negative 1. So I end up with double negative becomes a positive, 1 over 1, or 1 for my slope. Now, in this case, you get to pick either coordinate point. It does not matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick 0, 5 just because it's easier to work with. But again, you could go ahead and pick that negative 1, 4 if you wanted. All right, so let's start in point slope. Y minus my y value of 5 equals 1, x minus my x value of 0. And there's my point slope. Okay, so now to get it into slope intercept, I'm going to solve for y. I'm going to start by distributing. So y minus 5 equals 1x or x. If you want to put like a minus 0 or a plus 0 out there, you can. Okay, now I'm going to add the 5 over to the other side, and y is going to equal x plus 5. All right, and that is slope intercept. So there's 2 answers. Okay, now to get it into standard form, right, I'm going to move that x over. So I'm going to subtract the x over. So I get negative x plus y equals 5. Now I do have a problem though. I have a negative number here. Okay, so anytime I've got a negative out front, I just need to get that negative to go away. So to get it to go away, I'm going to divide everything by negative 1 just to get my signs to flip. So when I do that, I get x minus y equals negative 5. And that's my standard form. Okay, so again, anytime we have a negative that we need to get rid of, just divide by negative 1. Okay, let's go to number 5. So again, on number 5, let's start by finding the slope. So I'm going to do negative 3 minus negative 1. I'm going to do 2 minus negative 5. Okay, so that becomes plus. So I get negative 2. That becomes plus 7ths. Okay, so we can use either coordinate point here. Doesn't really matter. We'll just use the negative 5, negative 1. Okay, so point slope, y minus my y value of negative 1 equals my slope of negative 2/7, x minus my x value of negative 5. Okay, so now again we have make those positives there. Oops. And that's your point slope. Okay, so now we're going to distribute. So I get y plus 1 equals negative 2/7 x. Now you're just going to go ahead and put this 5 over 1 and just multiply. So on the top we've got a negative 10. On the bottom we've got a 7. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it improper because it'll make it easy when I'm trying to get rid of that fraction there. All right, and then I'm going to subtract the 1 over. So I get y equals negative 2/7 x. Remember, 1 is the same thing as 7 over 7. So I've got negative 17/7 when I put those together with common denominators. Okay. All right, and that is slope intercept. So now I'm going to move that 2 over by adding 2/7 to both sides. Okay, so that cancels. So I got 2/7 x plus y equals negative 17 over 7. Now I'm going to clear that fraction by multiplying all parts by 7. Okay, so that cancels. I get a 2x. I have a 7y. 7's cancel here, and I get a negative 17. And that right there is going to be your standard form. So here would be all 3 answers right here for you. Okay. All right, let's go to page number 2. Okay, so now they're asking us the same exact thing. I need all 3 forms, but now they're giving us a picture. So your job on this is just going to be to identify your slope and a coordinate point. Now, when I'm looking at this, you guys all know me. I'm going to be picking 0, 0. All right, anytime I pick 0, 0, heck yeah, that's easy stuff. Okay, now I need to find a slope. So again, find your pattern, right? Find your pattern. So when I look at this, I'm doing rise over run. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1. So my slope would be 2 over 1 or 2. Okay, so now I've got a point slope. So point slope form we go. Y minus 0. My slope is 2. X minus 0. Okay, so there's point slope. Now I'm going to go ahead and distribute that 2 through. Now I'm just going to put y here because I don't need to put that 0. And then 2x. If you want to put a minus or plus 0 out back, you can. So that would be your slope-intercept form here. Okay. Now let's go ahead and move that 2x over by subtracting it. So I'm going to subtract the 2x over to the other side. So I get negative 2x plus y equals 0. Now I have all whole numbers here, which is awesome. But remember, we got to get rid of that negative. So to get rid of that negative, we're going to divide everything by negative 1. Make sure you do it across the board there. So now I have a positive 2x, a negative y, and then 0 divided by anything is still just going to be 0. All right, and that's going to be my standard form. So there's standard, there's slope-intercept, and there's your point slope. Okay. All right, let's try it again. Getting information out of your graph. Okay, so you just find a point where it crosses nice and pretty. So you could use this guy right here. So when I'm looking at him, that would be 0, 4. Another easy coordinate point that you could use would be right here. So basically just using our intercepts, right? And that would be 3, 0. It does not matter which one you use. I'm just going to use 0, 4 because that was the first one we talked about. All right, so now let's find our slope though. Rise over run, right? So I'm going to rise 4. I'm running backwards 3, so it's a negative 3. So my slope is negative 4 thirds. Okay, so now y minus 4 equals negative 4 thirds x minus your x value of 0. Okay, so there's your point slope. Now I'm going to distribute. So y minus 4 equals negative 4 thirds x, and then plus or minus 0, it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to add that 4 over to the other side. So I'm going to get y equals negative 4 thirds x plus 4. There's my slope intercept. So there's my first two answers right there. All right, again, same process we've been doing. Bring that 4/3 x over to the other side. So I have 4/3 x plus y equals 4. All right, so now I'm going to multiply everything by 3, right? We're going to clear that fraction. So I'm going to multiply all parts by 3. Okay, so when I do that, those 3's cancel. I get a 4x, a 3y, and a 12. And that is going to be your standard form. Okay. All right, last problem we're going to look at today. A media download store sells songs for $1 each and movies for $12 each. You have $60 to spend. Write and graph an equation that describes the items you can purchase. Label your graph and define your variables. What is one combination of songs and movies you can purchase? Okay, now, helpful hint here. If you have an X and a Y axis, that means you should have two definition of variables here. So when it said define your variables, you're actually going to have two here because you have two unknowns. You have an X and a Y. Now, you can use letters like S for song and M for movies. I don't have any problem with that. I'm going to go ahead and stick with X and Y, though, just so it makes it easier when it's time to graph. Okay, but it doesn't matter what you choose to do. All right, so in this case, it says we're supposed to describe the items, so we're looking for the number of. So I'm going to make X number of songs that I can download. And I'm going to make Y my number of movies that I can download. Okay? So now when we're writing an equation for this, I know I've got $1 for a song plus $12 for each movie, and I only have $60 to spend total. So there's my equation. Okay, now to graph these, I am not going to solve for y and do y equals mx plus b. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our cover divide method. Standard form is excellent for that. Okay, so everything you think about, we did cover divide. The easiest time to do it was when it was in standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and use that, what we've already learned. And so on this, my x-intercept, right, x will be, well, let's see, if we cover and divide by 1, right, we're dividing by 1, we're going to get 60. And on my y, I'm going to cover this up and divide by the 12, and I'm going to end up with 5. So now on my x, I know I need to get out to 60. So I'm going to count by 10s. You could count by 5s or something else if you wanted. But I'm going to go ahead and count by 10s. And when I get out to 60, I'm going to go ahead and put my dot there. So my x-intercept, right, is at 60. I am going to go ahead and label this. So this would be number of songs. Okay. All right. Now on my y is at 5. So I'm just going to count up by 1s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put a dot there on 5. Okay. Now this would be number of movies, and then draw your line between. Okay, that was a terrible line, but you get the idea. Okay, give it a title, so we can say like media download. I'm just gonna put downloads. Oops, that's if I spell it right. Okay, now the last part here says what's one combination. Now the nice thing about this is because you did intercepts, you already have combinations ready to roll, okay? So I'm just going to use the intercepts here and come up with my combination. So think about this, right? To review intercepts, remember this would be 60, 0, right? The x is in the x position. And then here would be 0, 5. So I have a number in that y position. So now all it's asking is what's one combination? Well, 60, 0 could be one combination. I can buy 60 songs and 0 movies. Okay. Now, if you want to use this other guy, 0, 5, you would just say I can buy 0 songs and 5 movies. All right, and that concludes these notes.